you go really quick, right? 49.0. Am I in that range? So I know this is a huge swim for you, and one that I bet that you love to think about. Tell me about that one.
Yeah. So I remember, I think my sophomore year, it was at the club state meet, kind of a week or two after high school states. I had broken 50 the first time, and was, super excited about that. And so I was, hoping to drop some more time the next year at the state meet, and, looking at now that, David Bolin is kind of, he's moving on to college, looking at who else is swimming high school. I think that was Cameron's first year swimming high school. And he was kind of on fire that whole year, swimming super fast. And I remember the medley relay, I think I went like 22.6 or something 22.7, something like that. And that was quite a bit faster than I had ever gone. So I was feeling really good, really excited for the 100 backstroke. And then that prelim swim came, and I think I was 49, like mid maybe. And not super happy about that, because I'd gone 49.8 the year before and felt like I was swimming a lot better. So then finals come around, and Cameron had gone pretty fast that morning or the day before. And I, kind of similar to Nick, his, back half is always like amazing. And so I felt like I had some good speed that meet, and I just take it out quick and see if I can hang on. And so I remember feeling really good at the 50, feeling pretty good at the 75, and then pushing off that wall, and definitely feeling that first 50 quite a bit, and saw him coming up real fast on me. So I just remember trying to stay underwater as long as I could, and seeing him out of the corner of my eye during that last 25, and just doing everything I could to get my hand on the wall first. And so I touched the wall, and at Saginaw, the diving boards are kind of right there, so you can't see the scoreboard. So I remember swimming out a little bit, almost to like the flag, so I could see, and found out that I had barely out touched him. And that was really exciting, to get the first state championship, and especially someone like Cameron, who's an unbelievable swimmer. That meant a lot. And great for CC, and for that meet. I think that was one of the best seasons that we had at that point. We had a great senior class that year, guys like Colin Brinkman and Neil Robinson and Simon Shanks, and all those guys, teammates of mine, who had pushed me so much in practice every day. And it just felt like a great win for the team and personally as well.
Sorry, that's a great story. And like obviously one for DC, CC history. That's one that could be told 30 years from now, about just great win. And one of our clashed against one and came out victorious. They can tell that one forever, man. That's a legendary swim and a legendary race. So like we're talking about, you're doing other things at this time, besides just high school swimming. You're going to other meets, you're continuing to raise expectations, and now you're on the national scene in the summer between your junior and senior year. College is on your mind and everything. So I guess kind of set me up for what happens prior to your senior year in terms of your way of thinking about what you want from your senior year, and also where are you in your college decision, commitments, and all that stuff, and how does that kind of play in your mind as well?
Yeah. So I'd started emailing college coaches like the fall of my junior year. I remember Stanford always kind of being my dream school, and emailing Scott Armstrong, who was there at the time, and Ted pretty early on, just to get my name out there and update them with how I was swimming, and emailed a couple other schools at that time as well. And recruiting, I really remember it being on my mind too much that junior year, other than just kind of updating with my times every so often. And then that NCSA meet after the state meet, it was like a week and a half after the high school states. And I swam quite a bit faster than I thought I would at that meet. I think I dropped down to like a 3:52 in the 400 IM and 48.0 in the 100 back, which was, you know, really exciting to drop a second from the week before. And so at that point I was like, all right, I think I can, you know, have some options here for where I want to go to school. And starting that February, kind of into early March of my junior year, my back had started bugging me when I would do like underwaters and do some starts. But then once taper started, that felt a little bit better, so I wasn't too worried about it. And then kind of as a championship season went on and went to state meet and then NCSAs and then a sectional meet, it kind of just got worse and worse. So I took a few weeks off after kind of in April and got back swimming late April, early May, and was still talking to coaches at that point. Just kind of letting them know I was getting back into training and getting ready for July 1st when I could we could get on the phone with coaches. And so as I got back into training, my back just never really got better, and so ended up getting an MRI and figured out that I had a stress fracture in my L5 vertebrae, and was told that I couldn't swim until mid-September. So from middle of May to mid-September, not being allowed to touch a pool. And that's kind of the main time where recruiting happens. You know, college coaches are looking to see what you can do that summer. And so that was kind of a tricky situation for me to navigate. I was like, so I emailed the coaches I was mainly interested in. At that time, it was Stanford, USC, and Michigan. Those were the coaches I'd kind of been talking to the most, and just let them know that I wouldn't be swimming that summer. I just stress fractured my back and need to take a couple months out of the pool and gonna get back to working on it, doing a lot of rehab and everything as soon as I can, and just kind of hoping that they would still recruit me and that wouldn't, you know, turn them away. And fortunately, everyone I talked to was super supportive of it. I remember Scott Armstrong, who was the assistant coach at Stanford, having a long phone call with him. Just, you know, he understood the injury super well. He used to coach at NBAC and said that Michael Phelps had a similar injury and came back, you know, faster than ever, and had seen it a lot in athletes. And he was, you know, very excited to continue the recruiting process. And I remember that being just like a big relief, big weight off my shoulders that, all right, I'm still kind of where I thought I would be in this process. Like, this injury kind of hasn't thrown off, you know, my goals of getting into the school that I want to. So that was kind of tough for me to deal with at first. But then as I started talking more to these coaches, they were very understanding. And so, yeah, that summer was mainly just kind of talking with different coaches. I narrowed it down to Stanford, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Texas was where I took my official visits. And I'd always, you know, Stanford always being my dream school, I'd always kind of set my sights on there. So I definitely the thing with Stanford is the admissions process is a lot different than the other schools. So they won't take you out on a visit unless you get into the school. So I remember kind of having my visit tentatively scheduled, but waiting to get that acceptance letter. And it was during school one day, I was like switching classes, walking in the hallway, and I got a call from Ted, who was the head coach. And so I answered it. I was like, well, this is probably my decision on my admissions. So I answered it, and he told me that I had gotten into Stanford. And so I mean, that was, I'll never forget that phone call, because that was, you know, my dream school, and knowing that I actually had an opportunity to go there was incredible. And I still had a couple more visits. I think I had Texas and Stanford at that point. So I took my trip to Texas and absolutely loved it. Great team. Eddie Reese is a phenomenal human being. Great coach, but even a better person. And then I went to Stanford, and yeah, just couldn't pass up the opportunity, just to both push myself athletically and academically, and just the type of people that are on campus at Stanford. You know, the best of the best in terms of just like what they bring outside of just academics. Like, now I'm not sure how many varsity sports we have, since they recently cut a few, but you know, Olympic sailors that I've become friends with, and like, you know, top 3 football team my freshman year. Like, you get kind of the whole package in terms of athletics. And then outside of a classroom, outside of athletics, just people with so many different perspectives on life that growing up in Ann Arbor, and I hadn't really necessarily been exposed to. And so learning a lot about people's backgrounds from all over the world, and, you know, how they think. I was just really excited to kind of immerse myself in that culture and just make the most of those 4 years. So yeah, my ultimate decision is to go to Stanford, and I was super excited about that to kind of start off my senior year as I was starting to get back into training. And yeah.
Man, there's a lot to unpack there and everything that you kind of went through. And, you know, again, I'm going back and looking at you while you're talking, and I'm looking at these NCSA times from 14. You go 48.0 and 146.8, I think, in the 200 backstroke. And this is at a time where your training is being impacted because these underwaters feel a little uncomfortable, and, you know, like you're starting to feel something developing as you kind of described there. I don't know when that full pain set in, but that's remarkable to have swum so fast in that spring of 14 as the stress fracture is developing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, at that point it wasn't terrible, and also you get the adrenaline that comes with the races, and you kind of you know, don't really pay attention to it too much.
But it's developed, but you'd acknowledge it was developing?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I remember that meet in particular, especially that 100 backstroke race. I had set a goal time of going 47 that year. And so while I was super happy with the way that high school states turned out in terms of, you know, the results, I, you know, definitely wished I would have swam faster than I did. And so prelims for NCSAs, I think I went like 49.5, and I was pretty disappointed with that, but had a really good beginning of the meet with like the 2 fly, 2 back double, great 400 IM. And so I just kind of had one more shot to go for it. And I don't really remember anything about that race. I just kind of, I remember hopping in the pool and then looking up at the scoreboard is the next thing I remember. So it's kind of one of those races where you're really kind of in the zone, and looking up and seeing that 48.0, I was pretty ecstatic. And yeah, kind of at that point, I was like, my options are pretty open at this point for choosing which colleges I want to go to. So that was definitely something that was one of my favorite races during my high school career.